First and foremost, just want to thank all of you for being here. I'll have an opening statement, and then we'll kind of get to your questions. I'm sure that you probably have enough to write from Big Ten Media Day. I heard I had the most words, so I'm sure you have a lot to still pull from there. I'm sure I'll give you more today, but this is a really exciting day because this is really the start of the future. It's start of right now. It's start of the right next step. So we're really excited to do that. But before I want to get there, I want to thank a few people. I want to thank all of you for being here. I want to thank all of you for being able to spread our hyperculture, our row the boat message, providing the coverage that you do. I hope over the years what we can do is get a lot of you to Big Ten Media Day, then also be able to take that as an extension of today, be able to continue to develop that relationship and continue to get you out there. I know you go to Vikings training camp, a lot of you, but maybe we can find a way to be able to do both too, as we continue to connect all the major sports teams in our beautiful city here. But I do want to thank all of you for all the coverage, the numerous amounts of media outlets we have, and just your time that you sacrifice away from your families every single day. It means a lot to our program, and I look forward to that as we continue to go. Every Sunday spending with you has been elite, Sid. I appreciate that. I want to thank our staff for all their hard work they've been through for the last 6 months. I want to thank President Kaler and Mark Coyle for their commitment to our culture and our program, and for them allowing us to be us every single day. I want to thank our administration in general, our Board of Regents, for choosing us to be able to run our culture and be the head football coach at the University of Minnesota. Again, been living a dream for the last 6 months. I want to thank Mortensen. I want to thank our construction company that's building our Athletes Village and our Center for Excellence. I get a chance to look out that window every single day and see progress and the process. I get to see them early in the morning. I get to see when they arrive. I get to be able to read, no injuries on the back of all their shirts. I get to watch them stretch in the middle of the day. And then I get to watch them stay late nights working on our project, not looking at it as just a building, but looking at it as the next right step of our program, taking us to a completely different level in the facility category. So just want to thank you for everything that you're doing. I want to thank our student body who's getting ready to come back here. I really am. This is exciting. I want to thank you for accepting our row the boat culture the way you have and made it your own in a very quick time. And I've heard all of our student body as I run by all the fraternities, sororities, row the boat, and everybody who passes us and passes our players. Just want to say thank you for your commitment as well. It's been a fun 6 months. It's been a fast 6 months. We've accomplished a lot in the last 6 months. When you talk about building student athletes in an elite way, academically, athletically, socially, and spiritually, the players have absolutely dominated that. I want to thank our players for their commitment to a brand new culture. As we started doing a little bit more research, I think I was a little bit, when I talk about cultural sustainability, I was a little more lenient. We've actually had 6 head coaches in 11 years. If you go back to Mason and Brewster, and then I think it's Horton for 4 games, and Kill and Clays, and now me, that's a lot. That's a lot. We're averaging, in 12 years, really less than 2 years a coach. When you talk about averages, when you talk about cultural sustainability, that's what we meant when we talked in Big Ten Media Day. And to be able to have some things happen in the last 6 months, I think shows the growth and shows how our players are really letting the culture dissolve inside of them. We have the highest GPA in the recent history of our football program in the first semester of our hyperculture, row the boat culture here at the University of Minnesota. We've got the second most commitments in the entire country. Now, I understand this is not a race. I've heard a lot of, well, it's not a race. I get that. It's not a race. But what it does show is the amount of people around the country who want to become Golden Gophers. Now, you don't have to force anybody to ever commit. They want to do it. We just had 5 commits over this past weekend. That's a huge, huge weekend. And we talk about process. I want everybody to celebrate that in our community. Celebrate the recruiting process as we continue to go. We're obviously having our Athletes Village and Center for Excellence, where our student athletes can continue to grow in their social life, in their academic life. We've installed the Gopher for Life program and the Golden Opportunity program, which again touches into that social life, changing the narrative of our football players, growing in that social aspect as we continue to move forward. We have a saying here, and I know that a lot of you, I think I might have said it in the first week I was here. What we're working on becoming here now as we take our next step into training camp and going from the off season to the in season is when you talk about what teams do to become champions, right? Players take over teams. It's very simple. Bad teams, nobody leads, guys and ladies. Average teams, coaches have to lead. But elite teams, players take over those teams. That's what we're going to work for as we continue to go into the future. So with that, again, this is the most exciting time. It's the beginning of training camp. It's kind of like opening the gifts on Christmas morning. You get a chance to see what you have. We still are looking at what do we have. Remember, we still have those 220 or those 22 guys we have not evaluated or had a chance to develop. But those are the three words that are going to be critical: evaluation, developing, and mastering in this training camp. And we have to do all three in a 4-week span, which is an incredible challenge to our staff and our players. Very honored to be your head football coach. Really excited about year one of this journey together, and look forward to seeing what the dream has in store for us as we continue to go through the process and the journey. So with that, we'll open up for questions.
PJ, as you look at the quarterbacks now, when you get into practice, what are the markers, what are the criteria that you're going to be looking at that probably eventually is going to lead to a decision where you choose one?
Yeah, the quarterback question is something I'm sure all of you have on your mind. I have it on my mind. I'll be honest with you. Every single day, every single night, what I'm looking for is somebody to take ownership of our football team. You know, Jimbo Fisher had a quote from ACC Media Days: if you have a tough quarterback, you have a tough team, right? We have to find out how tough our quarterbacks are. They both played very, very limited amount of snaps, the maximum one game. So when you see that, you've got to be able to put them through very tough, rigorous, high stress, high pressure, easy, relaxed type of situations all throughout the spectrum to see how they respond to that. Decisive decision-making in everything that they do. They're not going to be perfect. They're not going to make every throw. They're not going to make every right play. But we want them to be decisive and believe in themselves. Because if that quarterback believes in themselves, they're going to be able to get others to believe in them, right? And then you get others to believe in themselves. That's the process of leadership that we're working on right now. And we've got to change some things. I don't think we haven't had a quarterback drafted since 1971. Don't quote me on that, but that's something like that, I think. But we want to change that. You know, and that's not just the focus of training camp. But the quarterback position is the most important position in football, period. Ask the Patriots and Tom Brady. There's a reason why he's not on the trade block every year, right? That is, he is everything to that football team. We have to be able to find that. We have to be able to create that and develop that. But again, same thing. Evaluation, developing, and mastery, all within 4 weeks. And I'm not saying we're going to be there in 4 weeks. That's a long, long process that takes a long period of time. But we're looking forward to the competition. It's a healthy competition. Our quarterbacks get along, and they compete. And it's a healthy competition. It's competing with each other, not necessarily against each other. And that's something that's created by our culture with our coaches.
When do you have to pick one?
Great question. The minute I know, I promise you, I will be so excited to tell every one of you. And I've said the secrets are no fun. Secrets hurt someone. I'm not keeping a secret. I will get you the information when I know. But they're going to start out with pretty much equal reps. And then from the opening snap of training camp, they're being evaluated for everything they do. Not just the football part, but everything else. The response to anything that comes their way. Academically, athletically, socially, spiritually.
Can you wait until the day before if you need to?
I can. I do not want to do that. I do not want to do that. Because sooner or later, that's why you're the head football coach. That's why our coordinators are the coordinators and our position coaches are the position coaches, because we all have to get together and eventually we're going to have to make a decision and then be able to train that quarterback so he gets a little bit more reps than everybody else. That's going to have to happen sooner or later. But what I want to be able to continue to create is, even though if some guy's not the starter, I want to see how he responds. What if I named somebody to start but really wanted the other guy to start? Just to see how he would respond to that. I'm not saying I would do that. But my point is that I want to be able to see this team respond in a very team-first mentality and a team-first way.
With all those guys you had injured in 22, how do you balance evaluating them to see what you have here in camp versus you got to get a team ready in 4 weeks to play a game?
Yeah, well, the time part's not necessarily the challenge, or it is the challenge, because it is and it isn't. Because you have a limited amount of time, but that means we get to go to work. You know, this is one of the times in the year where you don't have the hour rule, right, in terms of for coaches too. You know, training camps, this is what we love. You get to the season, you're going week in, week out, there's a certain process of that. Right now, we've got a sprint. And our coaches got some weeks off, and I told them that. I said, please, get away. Don't just completely get away. Because when we get back, we are going to work, and you're going to work harder than we ever have, including myself, because we have to do so many things. This is not year 4 of a culture. This isn't year 5 of a culture where you sit there and go, yeah, we're an elite team already, because the players have taken over. A lot of our players are still even learning our culture, let alone the schemes. So that's part of the process.
Coach, Who are the players not ready to go once you guys start tomorrow?
Well, Cashman, he's ready to go, but he's not going to have any contact for a few days. And there's a few others just in terms of full go, which the first few days aren't full go anyway. But it's just the hitting, it's the contact. But I don't think anybody past August 10th will have the reins on him and say, hey, we got to hold these back out of contact. So, but he'd be an example. And he's come back. I tell you what, that kid busts his butt. What a remarkable job he's done with Arno, our assistant athletic trainer, and our director of rehab, to be able to come back the way he has. And that's a credit to him and the way he works. But he'd be an example.
How do you balance expectations? You got a team that won 9 football games last year, but at the same time, once in a while we kind of hear you saying it's going to take a while to get to where you want to get to.
Yeah, the expectations to change our best and be better today than we were yesterday, and to be better tomorrow than we were today. Nobody's going to put more pressure on and have higher expectations of this team and myself more than me. And nobody's going to be able to put more pressure and expectation on themselves than the players. A lot of the outside stuff of the 9 wins and the 9 games last year, that has nothing to do with this year. Just like I could sit there and say, okay, well, if you're still at a place that went 13-1 and went to the Cotton Bowl and said, oh yeah, well, we're going to be good just because of that. It's a completely new football team, completely new identity. I think we have 42, 43 lettermen coming back, which makes us one of the least experienced teams in the country. Right, so when you talk about we had this last year, we have a new offense, new defense, new special teams, completely new culture, new way of doing things, 22 guys who have an impact that are out, and we still haven't seen what they can do or how they implement with our system. 42, 43 lettermen coming back. Those aren't excuses. Those are just facts. We could go 12-0. We could go 0-12. I'm not worried about the W or the L, what that looks like. I'm worried about this team doing everything they can to become their best and reach their maximum potential of whatever that is. And then the next day after they do that, we'll change our best and continue to grow.
Coach,
and that's what we'll do.
Coach, you've talked a lot about the difference in culture that you're bringing, Gopher for Life program, Leadership Council. As you've implemented this, have there been instances where last year's scandal has come up and you've had to nip it or address it at all?
Well, I think it's just educating the complete person in every aspect of their life. Our social issues and societal issues, we want to bring those into our culture and develop our players, having them ready for those types of things to come their way or to be around those things, how to respond to those things, how to say no to those things, how to be educated so it never gets to that point. But I'm not here to talk about last year. I'm really not. I'm just here to, just like we did at my last place, educate the complete person. We have a Gopher for Life and Golden Opportunity program that does that. We have a police education class. There was a simulation of guys getting pulled over, guys in our indoor, in terms of police education, getting to know, not necessarily how to get pulled over, but when you do, what to do. You know, where to put your hands, how to ask for permission, not to move, where to put your hands on the steering wheel, what to do with people in the back seat, how to roll your windows down, how not to make any fast movements, you know, how to communicate with the police officers. And we do that across all demographics, okay? And we have to educate, not to make friends with, but to educate for changing the narrative. You know, Rachel Barbeau from Fox Sports was in here, who has her own domestic story. And to be able to not just have somebody speak to our players, but continually be open so our players can still have a relationship with her and communicate with her and ask questions with her, even to this day. That's incredibly powerful. Having date night, where we teach our players how to go on a date. And like I told you before, that's like between 8th grade graduation, dance, homecoming, prom, and your parents' wedding all in one. That's true. But to be able to teach our players how to treat your girlfriend or the women in your life like a queen, right? And we want our players to watch us coaches do it as husbands, as fathers, right? As mentors, as men. It's becoming the complete man. That's incredibly powerful and incredibly important to us as we continue to do that. Having the Aurora Center come in here and build a relationship with our players. It's not just one thing or one speaker. It's the constant education of societal issues that we have, not ignoring them, not turning our back to them, but bringing them inside our walls and letting our culture educate the response moving forward. That's what our Gopher for Life program does. And there's multiple other classes with different topics. And then we connect our 18 Fortune 500 companies and our businesses and our local community and our cities with that to be able to help further their education, their careers, things like that. So It's a very unique culture. It's not just, oh, we came here and invented it. We did it at our last stop. It's about educating and developing the complete man, academically, athletically, socially, and spiritually. This is not just about the football aspect, and never will be with me. You will all judge me based on wins and losses, I promise you. But in terms of me being a teacher and an educator and our staff members being teachers and educators, that's not what we judge ourselves upon.
PJ, you talk about your uncertainty quarterback. Do you have a handle on what you have at wide receiver yet?
We're getting there. We're getting there. We see some. I think some of these freshmen that have come in will help. I really believe that. I think we have some really talented freshmen, true freshmen that just got here. I think they'll really help. I think Rashad Still's grown up. I think he's a more mature football team. I would probably say we're a more mature football team than we were from day one from here till now. Now, again, how do I define maturity? Because you can take that all different ways. When doing what you have to do becomes doing what you want to do in all 4 areas of your life, not just football, right? And I think we're a more mature football team. I think Ty Johnson, same thing, a more mature football player than he was. That's a credit to him. But we're getting there, and I can't wait to watch some of these freshmen compete. But that's in our system. I mean, we have to be able to have wideouts that make plays.
How hard do you think it is for a freshman to come in and kind of have that impact in the Big Ten?
I'm sorry, say it again?
How difficult will that be for a freshman to come in Big Ten and have that kind of impact at that position?
It's incredibly hard. I've done it. I've done it in college football. It's incredibly difficult. And I've watched freshmen come in. Corey Davis had to come in when we were at Western Michigan. And he was freshman player of the year in the conference. He was a freshman All-American. But I watched the struggles he had. And he was that talented of a player, but he still has struggles. The biggest thing for young people when they come in here is the time management and the confidence, because it's just a completely different level. Everything's new. And think of all of our lives. When something new comes into it, it's hard to adjust. Well, now we're all, we're mature, we're grown, we have kids of our own, but now you're doing it with a 17 to 22-year-old young man and expecting him to perform. But the people we've brought in, we feel like can do that. They have the confidence. They have that swagger to be able to say, I am going to play. And we wouldn't have brought them in if they didn't.
PJ, Coney Durr had the ACL. He said he's full go. Is that, as you mentioned, nobody past August 10th? Is he on that?
Yeah, he's one of those that will go right up to that August 10th. Now, again, August 10th, you're going to sit there and say, well, he only took 46 snaps, Coach. You didn't take 56. Right? I mean, like, as of August 10th, that should be where everybody's back on that field. Coney's kind of fits in the Blake Cashman deal, I would say, because just because he's back doesn't mean I'm just going to put him out there because he said he's back. I'm a parent too. We're going to bring these players back the way they need to be able to come back, because the last thing you want is bring them back and then something happens again. Now, there's freak things that happen, and nobody's perfect, right? But I want them to be able to be extremely confident in it. I want our trainers to be extremely confident in it, our doctors to be extremely confident in it. And at that point, the coach is out of it. I just listen to our medical staff. But again, I can help. Even when the medical staff said he's cleared, I get it. I think you still have to be able to kind of spoon feed him a little bit until he gets adapted to that speed again. Because just because you're cleared from, you're fine, playing Big Ten football at an exceptionally high level with the speed we play at, that takes a while to get used to.
Given the question marks you have at quarterback, on the line at wide receiver, how important is it to keep Rodney and Shannon healthy, and how do you do that and also have them fresh?
Well, that's the challenge in football. I think if everybody had that answer, the thing is just don't play them. See you at game day, right? But then somehow they'd fall down the stairs or something would happen, and you can't necessarily run away from that. You got to practice them. But yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, they're really the heartbeat of this football team. When you start talking about guys that are back, experienced players, we love to run the football in terms of our system, and you want to keep them healthy. Things happen in football, but I think when you see our practice schedules, I mean, we don't practice on Sundays, right? And in our culture, what we've done for the last 2 years, even before the new rules, we didn't practice midway through the week. We have 2 walkthroughs on Wednesday, so they don't even hit on Wednesday. So that's 2 days of taking care of our players, and that is something, that's a personal philosophy. That's not just, and I've done that for years. That's not something that's just new. But my job, I want to be able to take care of those players, right? Take care of those guys, get them healthy, and make sure they stay healthy. Now, the thing is, football's a violent sport. Guys get hurt. But, yeah, they're very, very, very important for the future of our program, especially this season. And we'll do all that we can.
PJ, you talked about moving Cashman around to get him on the field as much as possible. I guess how quickly did you reach that conclusion, looking at your linebackers, that you might need to be creative to try to get one of those guys on the field?
Yeah, it wasn't even just the linebacker part. It was the lack of depth I think we had at the defensive line that immediately said, okay, I'm not sure what we have at linebacker yet. This is all January talks too, February. So Didn't even know what we had yet, but it was the lack of depth at defensive tackle and our defensive line in general. I mean, I've said it before this true recruiting class came in, it wasn't a freshman or sophomore defensive tackle on the roster. We had one junior defensive tackle on the roster. We're talking nose and 3 technique. Now, I'm just saying, like, there should be 6 guys, 3 and 3. We don't have that. So now all of a sudden that becomes an issue. So now head coaches are always 2 years out when you're thinking recruiting and roster development. Well, that's why I said the 18 and 19 class are so important for the future, because that's what we have to be able to fill. For our linebacker position, we're very deep, right? And those are some of our best football players. I mean, there's 5 or 6 of those guys that we consider some of our best football players on the team. But if they're sitting on the bench all the time, that we're not playing our best 11. But you still have to be able to stop the run. You can't just play all linebackers and put a linebacker at 3 technique and nose guard. That doesn't make any sense. But creatively on nickel packages, cash packages, dime packages, third down stuff, third and longs, second and shorts, you can be incredibly creative. And that's what I think Rob Smith's really good at, our staff's really good at, and then we've talked about having that challenge all the way back in February, so we have things creatively speaking for what we're doing. And like I said, we're going to look more like a 4-3, but we're going to look more like a 3-4, but we are a 4-3 team. Just Carter Coughlin, in terms of your eyes, you say, hey, linebacker, that rush end in our system is a glorified linebacker. Whether you want to call him a DM or a linebacker, he's really our 4th linebacker, in a 3-4, but he's truly a 4-3, the way we designed some things.
Does he have to bulk up because of that, Carter?
I think he's grown. We didn't say, hey, you got to gain 25 pounds. Absolutely not, because we want him to keep his athleticism. He's grown naturally. Dan Nichols done a tremendous job in the weight room of being able to get him to the premier weight we want him at. But it's not like we had to sit there and force feed him, and now he's walking around here at 265, and you can't even recognize him. Remember, he was young last year, and his body's starting to mature, and you can start to see his body fill out where he's starting to look like a rush end instead of just, hey, you're a will linebacker. But again, he has the abilities, maybe stay at R, maybe he'll go back to backer, but he is a backer in our opinion. So, he's very similar to like Keon Adams, the R we had at Western Michigan, who was drafted in the 7th round. Now he's playing in a 3-4 outside backer system in the National Football League. So that's how that will look.
Did you have any kids when you came in January who you really wanted on this team that were kind of like, whoa, slow down, you scare me a little bit? Because you come in like a bull, and like, were there any kids like, I don't know if I can buy into this, I don't know if I can do this, and then you had to kind of...
I would hope that all of them said that. I really would, because if you're not changing and asking yourself, can I do this? Does this fit me? I don't think you've asked yourself the right question. Now, I didn't walk in day one. I even told them I didn't expect all of them to sit there and say, yep, you're our coach, we believe you. I just said, I don't want anybody to buy in right now. I don't want any of you. Listen, I'm here to prove to you that this program is right for you. And if it isn't right for you, that's okay, because I sat in this particular room with all of you. One side of the room, well, I'm just saying, technically speaking, I didn't organize them this way. One side of the room already made up their mind, no way can I no way can I do this. This is going to be way too hard for me. I don't fit this type of personality. I've had 3 head coaches in 3 years. It probably doesn't fit me. I think I need to make a change to get a different scene. I'll help you any way I can, no worries. Then there's people in the middle saying, I really like it, but oh my goodness, like you said, whoa, this is a little bit different. I don't look at it that way because we're just us. Our staff's just us. I'm just me. Our strength staff's just our strength staff. It's our culture. So we don't see it differently, but they do. Where you have to not prove to them, but I think what they were looking for was consistency. And then if there's a consistency to sit there and say, yes, I want to be here, or consistency saying, oh, you know what, I was hoping that was an act. It's not, I want to leave. Then there's a group that says, no matter what, I know you said that, coach, that you don't want us, but this is exactly what I feel we need. I'm all in. I'm 100% with you. And that's a process. Year one is incredibly difficult. In any culture, any coaching change ever, it's very difficult because it's affecting 17 to 22-year-old young people. It's a separation. It's a divorce. It's those types of things they've all been through. You feel all those feelings again. And we've had 6 head coaches in 11 years. That's what I'm talking about, cultural sustainability. And we wouldn't have come here if we didn't want that. But that comes from both sides. That comes from people that hire me and me taking the job here, and players buying into our culture, and then us bringing players in. It's the same thing. So But I do that comparatively speaking, so people have the analogy of sitting there going, okay, I can see that, because we're still dealing with 17 to 22-year-old people. And like I said before, Andy's question is, we talk about the Gopher for life. Just because we do that, that does not promise perfection. Our kids will make mistakes. I will make mistakes. Our program will make mistakes. But more importantly is how you respond to those mistakes, and the teaching of the men of how to be able to be a man through that, and the education through that, right? And holding people responsible at an extremely high level of integrity. That's hard. So again, that's.
We have time, shooter, go ahead, then we'll take one
All
more
right,
after
thanks,
you to
Paul.
stay on schedule.
If you could explain the purpose 3 and then the last line there.
Yeah, we sure can. That was for spring. Each quarter of the year, we have a new purpose 3, and those are the 3 things we focus on. So, we're talking about expectations, we're talking about the year from last year's wins. That is never our focus. Our focus in the spring was to row for each other. Just serve and give each other. That's all I want you to do. Just give to each other, get to know each other, learn about each other, spend time together, go out to lunches, dinners. Our players are taking pictures of guys they've never hung out with, and they go to lunch together and say, Coach, we're rowing. That's what we wanted them to do in the spring. And then we wanted them to learn. We wanted them to learn culture, scheme, technique, and obviously our how. Learn our culture. Just learn. You know what? You'll ask questions later. You'll see it all fit form. You'll ask questions why, but right now, I just want you to learn. Just learn everything. We had 15 practices and 15 meetings of Gopher Talk at the beginning, right? 15 installs, OD special teams, right? So just learn. Then the last was the hyperculture. Like, you can hear hyperculture. It wasn't necessarily our staff's culture coming in here. It's the application and the process of our culture becoming their culture. Instead of saying, yeah, Coach Fleck brought this culture in here. No, it's our culture now. So by the end of the spring, we want it to become our culture, right? Where everybody understands it, gets it, and that's how we wanted to peel back the onion and kind of dive into it a little bit more. So we have our new Purpose 3, which I'll share with you probably at some other point, because I'm not going to share it with you before I share it with them. But I'll share with you of why we did the Purpose 3 for the whole season. And that's incredibly critical, because you have to know that.
Coach, when did you start focusing on yoga and stretching, and when did that become a bigger focus for you, and what have you seen as far as the results when you've done that?
Well, we had a very similar situation when we walked in to the last stop we were at. We had a lot of off-season surgeries, a lot of off-season soft tissue injuries. And that was, again, in the January, February, March, April months that we were recovering from either the season prior or maybe January, February of our start of our regime, that we were noticing all these things. And so we knew our strength program would catch up with the times and make everybody better. But at the moment, what could we do? And that's when we started really getting into the yoga, the Pilates, the rest and relaxation, really doing all of our homework. Dan Nichols, unbelievable. The amount of rest our players will have, the amount of time they'll have to recover, how we need them to recover, the massage therapy, the pool therapy, the yoga, the Pilates. It's all about them. This culture is all about our players. And again, I know I'm at the forefront of it as a head football coach. But again, like I said at Big Ten Media Day, my job is to bring national exposure, national attention, especially when you have no wins and losses. You haven't played one game, to the University of Minnesota. And I think our staff has accomplished what we set out to do with, obviously the reality show and things that are coming out and our recruiting that we've been able to do and facilities and be able to have, our culture on full display. But that's one thing that we really believe in. I believe in mind, body, spirit. I believe in that all being aligned, and it's about the player. Being a former player in college football and then being a former player in the National Football League, and not only seeing the National Football League from a player's perspective, but also a coach's perspective and an owner and a president and management side, you start to see the whole aspect of how it all is connected. When you're a player, all you see is the player's view. When you're a coach, sometimes all you see is the coach's view. But when you've done it all, you see everybody's view, and then you make the culture the best you possibly can and the environment for your players the best you possibly can in all 4 areas. And it's not just for the soft tissues, not just for the injuries. It's for them. When do student athletes have time to have a 20-minute in the dark meditation or rest and relaxation time on their own? Very rare. Time management, when you get to college, you're at 6 in the morning until 11 at night, you're going, especially that first few years. And if you don't have things applied and adapted into your culture, except for just injuries and training and You have to come in for the rehab therapy. What about the guys who aren't hurt? How can they prevent that? And I think Dan Nichols better than that, anybody in the country. I really believe that. And he's one of the main reasons, might be one of the sole reasons why we had so much success at our last stop was because of him. I think he's the greatest in the country. And he's one of my best friends and one of the best strength coaches that we could ever ask for here at the University of Minnesota. He's absolutely elite. So.
All right, thank you guys. Thank you.
All right, appreciate you. Look forward to seeing you all row the boat, Sky Mouth. Thank you.